What's going on? We're going back to the 1980s, the decade where the slasher was probably at its most potent and most electric. And this movie in particular goes back to 1988. Grandmother's house. Let's talk about it. This movie was a surprise. And really, it's a gem, even among slasher movies, because it's not something that you would expect. The premise of the movie has to do with these two teenage kids who are orphaned after their father recently died, and they have to now come and live with their grandparents. And right off the bat, when you consider a movie called Grandmother's House, that's unsettling, it looks like it's mysterious, it looks like it's going to be a thriller, and it slides in the slasher genre, you think immediately, all right, grandma is tripping. She's the villain. There's some stuff going on in this movie. Or maybe the house is the villain. Anything called Grandmother's House is already immediately suspect. Anyone who knows, if you were lucky enough to meet your grandparents, or have been to go visit their homes, whatever it is, you know there's always one place that you're not allowed to go. And that typically is like the basement, the storm cellar, somewhere where it's clear it's off limits. Either it's locked, or you get close and your grandparents tell you, get out of there, don't go over there. There's something, and you're always, as a kid, you're curious about what the heck is in there. Because the more they tell you you can't go in there, the more you want to know what's in there. And on the surface, it's a great premise for something in the horror slasher genre. And what you find, though, is that a film like this ends up being about more than just going to grandmom's house. And that's what I liked about it, is because I thought it was going to be a different kind of movie. And all the pieces are there for it to be a run-of-the-mill slasher that you expect. All the plot points, things that seem like they're going to hit in the same way, and it doesn't do that. And the other thing I liked about it is that there's this metaphor about the basement in grandmother's house. This is what I took from it. It's not explicit in the movie. There's nothing about it. No one says anything about it. This is from my experience, where you look at something like the basement or the storm cellar or the closet or some other off limits place at a grandparent's house. This movie has another layer where there's something else metaphorically it's off limits, like the storm cellar, the closet of the family, like this notion of family secrets, this notion of things that you don't talk about, that in old families, well, in a lot of families, people just don't always know about them until they're revealed in other stories or whatever, different things. Families have some secrets sometimes. And I like how this movie plays with the idea of stuff that as a kid you want to know about, stuff you're curious about, stuff you're trying to investigate, and you keep hitting blocks by the adults in your life. And so I like that the movie plays with that, because I feel like it resonated with me as a kid wanting to explore my grandmother's house. And I can remember being very young. My grandmother had just passed away, and we went to go to New Jersey, which is where the family was, to go to the funeral. And I was sick, and so I didn't get to go to the funeral, but I was at the house, and there were definitely corners of that house that were scary, even in broad daylight. They were like dark and weirdly lit, that you didn't want to go in, but you were kind of curious too. Like, it was like, what's down there? But you felt like it's not a cool place to hang out. So it's immediately intriguing when you have something that's called Grandmother's House that has that kind of mystery in there. And investigating that mystery is a kid named David, played by Eric Foster. He's our lead. He's who we follow in this story. He's the younger brother. He's obviously not happy because his dad just died, and He's got to go live with his grandparents. And there's something obvious. Both kids, his sister Lynn, played by Kim Valentine, neither of them are in a good place at the time when they come to live with their grandparents. And things start out normal enough. They're trying to adjust to this new existence. And then David has a sports swim meet thing to go to, and the grandparents going to go to support him, and they meet the neighbors, and everything feels normal. But then David starts to suspect something's off about his grandparents. He's hearing weird sounds, and he wants to go investigate, see what's going on. And his parents are talking, and his grandparents are speaking in hushed tones, and they look like they're doing something that they shouldn't be doing. And so David goes to investigate, and on first glance, it seems like his grandparents might be attacking someone. Maybe they knocked someone out. Maybe they killed someone. David doesn't know. So the film is really about him trying to investigate what's going on with his grandparents. And the wild card is there's this random woman that keeps popping up from time to time and around the house. And David doesn't know who the heck this person is. Like he's weirded out by her, has no idea. But there's a connection going on. And the film really is about exploring that. And then when it goes into full slasher territory, like the slasher energy, I don't know if you could call it a full slasher. It's really about it evokes the feel of a slasher, because it does have some thrills. And I think when the film leans more into that, it is engaging, and it gets rolling, and it's fast paced, and it's really something. By the time you get to the end, you're left with a story that actually is a good story, and it's something that it really does a lot of loop-de-loops. And as a writer, I'm always fascinated with stories that do stuff like that. I'm sure I've mentioned things like that before on this channel, but man, I was surprised, and I was really, because I was not expecting the way the story would go. And I just, you strive you want to, I always think about when I'm writing stories or thinking about stories that I would like to write something that does something like that. It doesn't have to be great. Even if it's not the best masterpiece of a story, it's a good story. It's thrilling enough to where it makes you feel like, oh, that was a good something. That was a good story. It was really had me going. I was really invested. And I think those are the best movies. When you can stay invested and your attention is really keyed in on what's going on, that's something to pay attention to. Because I'll be honest, the first half of the movie, it does feel like it's probably a little bit slow. But again, if you're paying attention, it's build up. It's good build up for what is to come. The first act and half of the second act is a lot of just very slow burn build up. There's little things that the movie gives you that when you start putting the pieces together yourself, it's really fun. Well, no, I wouldn't say fun. It's not fun, because you're on this journey with David, and things get increasingly more intense for him. And this is a movie where you really feel like you're on the journey and you're figuring things out as David's figuring things out. And it's crazy. And so I think just based on that alone, I would recommend Grandmother's House. I think the acting is really good. For an 80s movie that didn't feel like it was really mainstream. I don't know, maybe it was. It doesn't seem like it's not one of the movies you would go to when looking for this kind of movie in the same genre. Like Friday the 13th movies are in this, and then Nightmare on Elm Street. There are other movies from this decade that you might go to before you hit this one. So, and again, like I said, it was a random watch, something that I'd never heard of before. I'd watched it, and I'm glad I watched it, because it was a good appetizer for Halloween season. This type is good. It's a good sort of, and it's not long. It's like an hour and a half or hour and 40 some odd minutes or so. It's just enough to get you going, get you in the mood for ooh, like more thriller-y type stuff. And yeah, it was a good one to get into. So if you're curious about this movie, I would recommend giving it a watch. It is again, it might be slow for some audiences in the beginning, but I think if you hang in there, it'll pay off. So I'm gonna leave it there because I think the less said about this movie, the better. So thank you for watching this one and for hanging out, talking movies with me. I am gonna get out of here. Come on back though. More thrillers and things coming up soon. So stay tuned. In the meantime, I'm getting out of here. I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.